have a family fast travel system. Doesn't traveling matter go out the window when players set up family links with their guild? So again, families are, oh, I'm sorry, let me read the last part of that. What system will be in place to prevent this? Yes. So it's important to note that there's a cooldown period between a person leaving a family and joining another family, and that period is in the matter of days. That's the first thing. Second of all, the summon system is contained wholly within the family unit.
too far away. Not enough rage. I need a target. Inventory is full.
Goddess bless you. Asha Allah.
How may I help? Alone light your path. Alone be with you. Till next we meet.
Not enough raid.
Hello. Be careful.
I am listening. May the stars guide
I am
you.
honored.
What brings you here? Good luck, friend. Ishnu Dal Dieb. Farewell.
It's Jake from State Farm. Sounds like a really good deal.
Jake from State Farm at 3 in the morning. Who is this?
It's Jake from State Farm.
What are you wearing, Jake?
Max Kellerman. I'm not feeling good this morning, Max. I'm not feeling good. We've religiously talked about this topic. I've always conceded the Lakers were not the best team. It was the Clippers, but I've got the Lakers winning the championship because I don't believe that two of the top 5 players on the planet Earth should be losing in the NBA Finals or should be derailed from capturing an NBA championship. Last night, even though it's been a hiatus, even though it's been a break, Max, even though we get to look at the fact that, you know what, they've been gone, everybody rusty and all of this other stuff, does not matter to me. Last night was the first time I looked at the Lakers and I said, I don't like this. I don't like their chances right now. Because I think about Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams being gone and the fact that it took LeBron and AD playing 34, 35 minutes respectively in this contest to come down to the nail biter that it was. I watched the Lakers shoot worse from three-point range. I watched the Lakers shoot worse from the field. I watched LeBron James, even though, again, he's rusty and all of this other stuff, he'll be significantly better. But I'm just thinking about the offense that Lou Williams brings to the table, even though he's compromised defensively. I'm thinking about the physicality Montrezl Harrell brings to the table where Anthony Davis may not look the way that he looked last night. And for the first time, Max Kellerman, for the first time, I find myself very, very concerned. Even though, again, I always felt that the Clippers were the deeper and the more talented team, my attitude is they don't have LeBron and AD. That can overcome everything. Last night, Max, was the first time I found myself significantly nervous about those prospects. I'm not comfortable with what I saw, Max. I'm not comfortable.
Well, as usual, we're on the opposite ends of things because before yesterday's show, or during yesterday's show, before this game, you were talking about the Lakers, and I was pro-Clippers in terms of what we thought about their chances. Who was big on, in crunch time, right? I'll take Kawhi over LeBron. You take LeBron over Kawhi. Stephen A., you're right about everything you said. I think the Clippers are the better team, and they showed that they weren't nearly at full strength. When they've been at full strength this year, what are they, 10-1? They said the stat during the game. They almost never lose. One loss on the season when at full strength. And by the way, Shaman is not going to make the negative contributions he made. You just take him out of the game, the Clippers probably still win. Rushing shots, missing shots, turning the ball over. He was terrible. And he's a nice little player normally, nice little contributor. So I get everything you're saying, but the takeaway from last night, Stephen A., has to be, if we're just being honest emotionally about what that game was about, was LeBron James in crunch time. I'm here to say it. I'm man enough to admit it. I'll still take Kawhi in crunch time, most often. I'll take them in the playoffs. Like, show me you do that in playoffs against Kawhi, LeBron. But last night, Stephen A., before the half, in a close game, a game that was wide one way, wide, a little game of runs, and then it tightened up, and at the half, LeBron accepted the challenge. This is something you always talk about. Some dudes, like LeBron, always making the correct basketball play. But sometimes in a larger sense, the correct basketball play is accepting the challenge of the other team's superstar, especially when you play the same position. And LeBron took him defensively at the end of the half and stopped him. And then, at the end of the game, Stephen A., the takeaway from this game for me is LeBron James following his own miss for the go-ahead bucket. And then on the other end, first stopping Kawhi, and he gave the ball up to Paul George, and then stopping Paul George. That was championship stuff by LeBron. Unfortunately for him, it happens in the restart of the regular season in a game that, other than psychologically, the psychological impact is largely meaningless for the Lakers. But Stephen A., at the end of that game, LeBron did not have a great game by his standards. AD was the best player on the floor for them. And Kawhi had a better game than LeBron overall. But when it mattered most, that man took the shot, followed the miss, showing more will in the moment of truth. And then on the other end, stopped their two best stars from scoring. I mean, like, Kawhi had to give the ball up. That was great stuff from LeBron. That was my takeaway. He was the king last night.
Well, listen, I'll give him more credit for the defensive plays against Kawhi and Paul George than it was for the offensive putback, because I thought that was a poor shot that he took that ultimately he followed because nobody boxed out, which is why Doc Rivers was disgusted. But what I will also say to you is this.
I am honored.
Ladies and gentlemen, alert. Paul George is healthy. He dropped 30 last night. We know that Paul George is capable of that. We've been talking so much about Kawhi and LeBron and Anthony Davis because Paul George wasn't one of those three that we forgot this brother is a bona fide star in this league. And this dude can get stuff done. We've seen Paul George perform in big moments time and time again. Last night doesn't even qualify because it was just a return to the NBA regular season. But I'm telling you right now, because of the shoulder surgery, the health that he is enjoying, he's not, just stymied by injuries and things of that nature, combined with Kawhi Leonard, exercise and load management and what have you. When they've been on the floor together, we know what they're capable of doing. What I'm saying is, that Paul George last night, if that Paul George is like that in the playoffs, I'm going to sit up here and be like, is the Clippers.
The history of the league is.
Because I don't know what the hell can they do about that. Thanks for watching ESPN.
Ishnu Allah. Go in peace. Greetings. Good luck, friend. be with you, then Madres. May the stars guide you.
I'm out of range. It's too far away. I'm out of range. I need to get closer. I'm out of range. Inventory is full. I can't carry anymore. closer. Inventory is full.
life, I've dreamed of becoming an action hero.
Die Hard is the funniest, most action-packed show of the year.
Welcome to Ron Wilcox Action.
Well, yeah, it definitely felt good. You couldn't ask for a better restart if you're the NBA with both games. But look, I told you guys, I was on the show yesterday, I said it's a very much a must-win for the Lakers, and they played like it. They came out and played like they needed that victory. So good for them. It's 2-2 in the regular season series. When they meet each other in the playoffs, it'll be even. So that's great for all the NBA fans. But for people like myself that picked the Clippers to beat the Lakers in the playoffs, there's no reason for me to be discouraged whatsoever. I mean, they were right there, had a chance to win that game without Montrezl Harrell, without Lou Williams, with Patrick Beverly limited to 16 minutes, with their offense very much disjointed at times because of different guys being in the lineup that usually aren't playing. They had 20 turnovers last night, so you could see it right there, and yet they still were in the game. The difference last night was the bench. The Lakers bench with Alex Caruso, Kyle Kuzma, Dion Waiters, those guys were great. They all had high plus minuses, whereas four of the Lakers starters all had negative plus minuses. And then on the opposite side, the Clippers bench was a problem and struggled. But we know when Harrell and Lou Williams get back, that's not going to be an issue. So, again, as a guy that picked the Clippers, I feel very confident. Now, there's an interesting thing developing in this series. You see that the Clippers give LeBron major problems, right? And that's to be expected when they got two of the best perimeter defenders in the league in Kawhi and Paul George. LeBron in the 4 games against the Clippers, 37% field goal percentage. That's his lowest against any team he's played more than once this season. 21 points a game. That's 4 or 5 below his season average. But what's interesting is, and last night he really struggled, obviously, in the first 3 quarters. In the fourth quarters, the last 2 games that the Lakers have won, LeBron has been very good. 7 points last night, 2 assists on 3-pointers in the fourth quarter. Obviously, the 2 drives in the last minute and a half, including the game winner. And Anthony Davis, while a lot of people might praise him, and he was great in the first 3 quarters, he scored 2 points in the fourth. He's got 10 points in the fourth quarters of the 4 games against the Clippers. So the question for the Lakers is, is that the formula? Can they trust that formula? Is it AD's going to carry them through 3 quarters? And can they trust that LeBron's just going to be able to dominate in the fourth? That's a tough thing to do when you've got such great defense on the perimeter by the Clippers. So I was discouraged that AD didn't do a little more in the fourth.
Welcome to Ron Wilcox Action Star School.
My whole life,
I've dreamed of becoming an action hero.
Can I assist you?
And then finally, let me throw this in. LeBron's defense was phenomenal. That's a big sign for Lakers fans. They got to like that. When he wanted to, he locked down Kawhi and Paul George.
The last game they played, I think it was March the 8th or the 9th. Did Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell play?
Did they?
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Okay, look, a few days ago I shared why I was hyped for Shadowlands. Kinda took a while, it was a long video, and it was a good sign that there were things to be hyped about, but we also have to be realistic, because for all that's going great, there's a few fairly major things to worry about, things we need to talk about. But I can tell you one thing, I'm no longer worried about. my balls. And with today's sponsor, Manscaped.com, you won't have to worry about your balls either, especially because you can get your balls taken care of with 20% off and free shipping if you use my code. Check out that link down in the description. So you can get your balls clipped, you can get them deodoranted and toned. Yes, I thought the toner was for printers, but no, it's for balls as well. Now look, shaving down there, it's one of the more stressful parts of male existence, right? I mean, man, that shit really stings when it goes wrong, doesn't it? And that's why Manscaped made the new Lawnmower 3.0. That is awesome. It is a water-resistant body trimmer that, with their advanced skin-safe technology, well, does just that. It vastly reduces the chance of being afflicted with bloody balls, which is not particularly fun. The battery lasts 90 minutes, and it USB fast charges. It's a lot better than any trimmer I've used before. And you can also get the perfect package essentials kit. That's got the Lawnmower 3, the deodorant, the toner, and the Shed travel bag, and a pair of ungodly comfortable boxers. So yeah, shave your balls, deodorant your balls, tone your balls will thank you. And yeah, just let Manscaped do your balls a solid by following my link down below in the video description. Thank you, Manscaped, for supporting the channel, and with that, let's get into Shadowlands. Funny enough, we've got to kick this video off with a change because Blizzard have changed conduits. They're no longer a destructible thing. They are a permanently unlocked library of things where basically when you do harder content, you unlock better, versions of the conduits, and you can just apply them to your soulbinds. Or so you would think, because while this is 2 steps forward, there may also be some steps back, or at least a complication, because each soulbind can only be respec'd once per week. That's pretty much it. So yes, we're now in a situation where you're not going to be refarming soulbinds or anything like that. You will be permanently unlocking them into some sort of library. Kind of reminds me of essences. But the thing is, each one of those soulbind trees can only be respec'd, be that changing its conduits or whatever, once per week. Now, you can freely choose whatever conduit or whatever soulbind you want, but within the sort of bounds of an actual soulbind itself, yes, that can be respec'd once per week. Now, this is basically tricky if you say, well, get new conduits and are excited to use them, but you can't because the soulbind you want to use them on is, on cooldown and cannot be respec'd, so that kind of sucks. Also, if you wanted to use the same soulbind for 2 different roles, but wanted 2 different sets of conduits for those roles, then yeah, that's just not something you're going to be able to do. At least, maybe it's not a system, maybe this is a good thing, but it's not like, say, with reforging in BFA, where, yeah, you could reforge your Azurite all the time, but it would cost you a pretty darn insane amount of money. Now, Blizzard have basically said that they understand and they agree with the feedback on the conduits being destructible. However, they feel there needs to be some friction between, the respecking. It's that thing where Blizzard are always worried that you're just going to be optimal for every single boss fight that you do, and that if you can be optimal for every single boss fight, then basically there's never any choice in the game because you can, in a low friction way, always make the correct choice. And I think I agree with them academically, but in practice, I do feel like there is just more hassle from implementing this friction in these systems than there would be from just letting people respec their stuff at the same time that they, that they're changing up their talents. I mean, at the end of the day, Blizz, you keep on bolting these things onto expansions, and there's still a situation where people want to change their talents, they want to change the legendaries, but the thing is, there's other aspects of their character build, like their soulbind conduits, that could be impacting their legendaries. I mean, we've identified a few, and it seems like Blizzard does have a plan to actually have some of the conduits change up things like your Covenant class ability in a pretty significant way. So, if that's the case with those conduits, and those would be conduits that actually would sort of matter for, your legendary and your talent build, which means there's just going to be aspects there that'll kind of suck. Now, from really reading Ian's tweet, it does seem a little bit more like that's something that, they'd rather handle that not by changing the conduit system, but by changing the balance of specific conduits. So suffice to say, I am happy that they are no longer destructible or anything like that. But I'm also a little bit concerned that they've just sort of slapped on this arbitrary 1 week cooldown for each soulbind's respec. I kind of feel like that's going to just not feel good in practice. Next one that I've not really heard that much, and it's more of a personal worry, and that is that I think Mythic Plus affixes kind of homogenized dungeons, right? Like, you know, you've got your bursting and your tyrannical and all of that stuff, and volcanic, and it's just kind of, you know, all very samey. We've been dealing with them in one form or another since Legion. And, you know, I've always been somebody who loved the Cataclysm dungeons, where it was just a simple dungeon, no time or anything like that, and it was rock hard. If you made a mistake, you'd get punished, but it wasn't all about doing the gigapools. And certainly I think there's class design problems. I mean, man, if you're a warlock, I think you really suffer from it being a time trial sort of super fast type of content, just because of how your classes or your specs play. So I've got a little bit of that tiredness over timers in the dungeon format. I wonder if anyone else does. But on affixes, yeah, I mean, it's just that sort of idea to me, and I don't know if this something will resonate with you as well, but that I could be doing a new dungeon and just kind of have the same affixes I've had for the last 2 expansions. To me, it just makes that new dungeon feel more similar to the ones that I've done before. Now, this is obviously a weird thing, because the affixes do change up the difficulty, they change up the gameplay, and they do interact with every single dungeon just a little bit differently because of its different layout. But still, I have to wonder if maybe some sort of lack of interest here from me is suggesting just a little bit of sameness that's not really helping them out. Now, that said, I will say the dungeons are really cool from what I've seen, and there is room for the seasonal affixes to do the heavy lifting. And what's great there for me is that Awakening, whatever it was, the Nyalotha affix was apparently really, really, really good. To be honest, I was a raider at the time. I wasn't really doing dungeons, but people speak very highly of it. And maybe that means that Blizzard will be emboldened to actually be a bit more out there and a bit more impactful with the seasonal affixes, such that the dungeons might actually start to feel just a little bit more different. All right, next up, classes. This is something that's definitely a worry for me, and that is that, you know what, loads of classes don't go far enough. And this might be a bit controversial, but okay, shamans, they have done great, wonderful. But, you know, there's others that are struggling, like Mistweavers feel really unloved to me. I mean, just in general, I feel like the monks could get a whole bunch more. It used to be my main, by the way. You know, Mistweaver, they've still got that weird soothing mist, sort of instant vivify mechanic. It's totally just a noob trap that I don't really think, I think it's cool fantasy, it doesn't add that much to the spec, so there's some issues there. And just in general, right, there's a lot of that community, the Mistweavers, they've been so good at providing really good, clear feedback, and I don't really think it's been met that well. Sub-rogues are another one that feels really rough. I mean, they were just gutted, eviscerated, one could say, after Zul, because their mechanics interacted with Zul in a pretty degenerate way, but then Blizzard responded by killing them for the rest of the expansion, which is a bit mean. But yeah, their AoE problem has now just been solved with just this new ability, which is like, okay, it doesn't really feel subtle because it's a big sort of backflip situation, but I mean, I don't know. It feels like Sub could just do with a bit more there. And then another one, Unholy and Frost. Now, I think they're generally both really fun and great, but AoE. I mean, their AoE is a talent. Epidemic and Glacial Advance, right? That feels really rough and incomplete to me. I really do think the talents should be honing a spec or providing new gameplay options, but I don't think talents should be completing a spec, and that's an example of that. And then the Hunters, man, you know, I think BM works pretty well, okay? But SV needed so much more to actually just start to be more interesting. And I mean, again, SV always struggles with that thing where, is it really what the Hunters asked for? As somebody who played a Hunter since Wrath and a little bit in TBC, I don't really think we asked for melee survival, but that's another kettle of fish. Hunter. This is a really divisive one. Some people really like the new Hunter. I know, like, Preach and his boys, they both quite, or I think they like the Hunter if memory serves. That said, there's a section of us, maybe more traditional hunters, not entirely sure, but there was a lot of us who have been just in this very long struggle with the Hunter. I loved so much of it in Mists of Pandaria, and then it really seemed like there was a lot more planned for WoD, and it never really happened. So with WoD, we just felt a bit weird, but you know, still it did work out quite well. But then you go into Legion, you've got the revamp that happened. You had SV being a bit weird. And then you go into BFA, and I really hate the BFA Hunter. And now this is something you might completely disagree with me, but I do know that in the core Hunter community, that's a very split issue. So I really feel like Hunters, once again, have just not seen anywhere near the love that they really should from Blizzard. And it's just another example of some dehomogenization, some of the unpruning is really good. but more could have been done at the fundamentals for loads of different specs. And generally it is that thing where your spec's going to feel really samey for the most part. And to me, that just feels like Blizzard didn't really go far enough in a bunch of these cases. I do actually think that Blizzard are a bit starved of class design resources, and I've really got to imagine that just some of their recent adventures in struggling with corruptions and doing all of the Covenant abilities and stuff like that, I just have to wonder, has that actually kind of starved them of time to actually work in the core of classes? Then next up, some classes are, I think, just in a pretty bad state. Shadow Priests. Sorry, Devouring Plague did not go far enough in terms of the recent changes they did on Alpha/Beta, and Shadow Priest just struggles with loads of fundamental issues that have existed for a long time and still seem to continue to exist. They're really bad on Alpha or Beta now. So yeah, big issue there. I mean, if you're leveling, you're probably going to be doing it in disc. And it's just that thing where I think they need a shaman scale rework, right? So you can keep a lot of the spell names and stuff like that, but just a real big change up of the mechanics. That's what the Shadow Priest needs. I don't think it's really getting it. I mean, if it is going to get it, that would be great, but it's getting pretty late in the day. So that's one concern. Balanced Druids. And I mean, man, the Druids in general. Your new Eclipse doesn't feel great. Balanced Druids, I mean, I think that the existing empowerment system was a bit boring, but it was kind of inoffensive. But the new Eclipse, I just don't really like how it's worked. I don't really like how the various different iterations have actually went thus far from Blizzard on Alpha and, well, I guess now Beta. I don't think there's been changes since Beta, though. But yeah, Balanced Druids, not really feeling those. You can, reference our video on that. Feral's another one where, Feral's just got so many big problems. Now, the one good thing is that Sabretooth was nerfed. It just basically was the case. Sabretooth was so good, you'd never not use it. It was just stupid. So Sabretooth's been nerfed. That's going to be good for balance and opening up some of their other builds. Now, we have also heard that Blood Talons is still being thought about. Of course, there were very controversial Blood Talons changes that ultimately I don't think are that great. That have happened. Those, I think, are bad. Blizzard have said they're going to be looking at it. There are no changes in the build yet. And sadly, that does mean that, yes, I am still worried about Feral. And then Guardian. I think Guardian might actually be the most boring class in the game. Yeah, I'm sure, it works fine, whatever, but it's just really boring. So it's just another example of, there's just some of those cases, that's my personal list of gripes, but there are classes where, look, if you've had fundamental problems with them for a decent while now, that's just not within the scope of what Shadowlands is doing for classes. Shadowlands is more about unpruning, giving you some more hybrid opportunities and stuff like that. It's really more about that than it is actually about class changes in a whole bunch of ways. I mean, going into this with I want lots of class changes focused mindset is, I think, maybe missing the point of what Blizzard actually said with the unpruning. And I don't say that to sort of badmouth you. I say that to really reflect my own journey with trying to understand what Blizzard's intent really has been. It does seem to me that they're actually pretty happy with the core of how the class is played in BFA, and that really they were kind of more just about chasing crowd claps and getting some of that RPG sort of hybridness back in through the unpruning. And those things are all well and good. But I think for those of us who maybe sort of look fondly back to other days in the game's history, yeah, not far enough and still some core issues. And that's really my core 2 points on the basic health of the classes. And then next up, Covenant ability design. Now this is different from spec swapping. That's not the point that I'm making here. This is the actual design of them. And it basically is just this thing. They're class design. They're not spec design, right? So, if you have, say, an enhancement shaman and you're a Kyrian, well, you're just going to get that same totem for every single one of your shaman specs. And for some of those specs, it matches really well. For others, it just doesn't gel with how you play. And there's loads of different examples of this, and it really is a very simple core point. If something is made to work with the entire class, then it's not going to have the specificity to work fantastically with an individual spec. It's not going to be super ingrained within their mechanics. Now, that basically just means that it's impossible for any of these to really reach the heights of the Legion artifact abilities. Now, in fairness, I will say that loads of those Legion artifact abilities were a bit naff. They were kind of just another button to hit, which is a bit suck. But say New Moon, right? New Moon in the Balanced Druid. That was super cool and how it interacted with the flow of the spec. And you're just not really seeing things to that scope. And I think that's a bit unfortunate. I really do wish that they actually just gave us a new talent row and maybe one active ability for every spec, even if it was just for this expansion only, because at least then those could have been gameplay options actually designed for those specs, rather than the Covenant abilities, which I really will say some of them are pretty cool mechanically. A lot of them fail to integrate with the core specs super well, and often they just don't really feel like in theme with your class anyway, so you kind of wonder what's the point. Not a massive success thus far is what I will say. I'll put it this way to make it very simple. I am infinitely more excited for getting my hands on legendaries than I am for any of the new Covenant abilities that are coming in this expansion. And really, I think that is something to worry about. And then next, another part of that, and that is balance, right? Again, I'm not really convinced that the balance is going to work here, and this also ties into spec swapping, which is something that I'm not going to, or Covenant ability swapping, I'm not going to get into that too much, because, my god, I talked about it for 45 minutes. If I talk about it anymore, I'll go mad, you'll go mad, and it'll be a big lose-lose for the whole lot of us, but you've just got these problems, like say the Venthyr one, for the Warlocks, it's an extra dot. Now that dot scales with Afflictions, Malefic Rapture, but not any of the other specs mechanics, so that is a little bit strange. But then you just have this problem, right, where let's just say, I'm a Kyrian Paladin, okay, and my Kyrian class ability is really good for one of my specs and not that good for the other two. Well, that's going to be a problem if I want to play multiple specs. Fundamentally, right? Because that then is basically saying that Blizzard's ability to balance these will be such that in the general case, if you sort of take everything together, then no matter what choice you go for, you're going to have slightly different effectiveness in different places, but it'll all be sort of similar flavors of the same sort of resultant effectiveness. Sounds good in paper, right? It's a big old Schlieffen plan, as I said before. A plan for victory, so if you want some... there's your military history reference for this video. It's the quota ticked. But, they've made another Schlieffen plan. Their plan only works if everything goes perfectly, right? These Covenant abilities only work if Blizzard manages to balance them all well. Now, I don't know about you, but the time that I decided to properly get a bit more back into World of Warcraft after an expansion of apathy with BFA, for me, that was patch 8.3. And I think we all know what that was like in terms of balance. I got Echoing Void at the start, so even though I was rusty as hell, I was topping the meters. Was I good? No. Were there times I'd be like, oh, I've just been hitting the wrong ability for 5 seconds, and oh, I'm still at the top of the meter? Yes. Should it have been like that? No, it should not have been. But that's just Blizzard's ability to balance the game, right? They've made a plan that assumes they can balance all of this stuff really well, and I am sorry. Number one, this wouldn't matter if it wasn't an MMO and didn't sort of play out the way that it did. So I'll give them, I have to acknowledge that. If this was like Dragon Age or Baldur's Gate or something, I wouldn't really mind about any of that. But because it is an MMO, we've got to be realistic about it. Yeah, Blizzard, you guys you really struggle with balance, right? I mean, just look at any rankings for Nyalotha in terms of like different specs and stuff, or any raids, and even with the specs, the variance is humongous. I mean, hey, if you enjoyed Sub-Rogue at any point after Zul, maybe not any point, but for a lot of the time after Zul, kind of sucks to be you. So, man, yeah, I just don't trust them to be able to do that stuff right based on their previous track record. But the problem is that is just that's really big, because the actual spec, or the sort of lock of these Covenant abilities, is something where you can't swap between them a lot. And ultimately, if you could swap between them easily, then yeah, let's just say the Venthyr one sucks in this patch. Well, you could move from the Venthyr one to the Kyrian one and its Soulbinds, and yes, Blizzard's balance problem would still exist, but you wouldn't feel trapped by their problem. And maybe this is the sort of thing where it would be a bit less cool, a bit less RPG-ish, but it might actually be a bit more pragmatic. So certainly food for thought.
We're never alone.
Next up, the GCD. I'm going to harp on about this. I know that it's been said that the GCD has been really blown up as a problem, and it's not really as big a problem as people say it is, but to that I say no. Screw the GCD change, I don't like it. It's not going to kill this expansion. It's not what killed BFA, let's be real. And the GCD situation is better in this coming expansion than it was in BFA. And that is quite nice, you know? Things like your Blade Flurry, yeah, it's on the GCD, and that kind of sucks. But hey, at least when you press it, your character doesn't attack. So it actually feels like you press that button and you get a cool output. Now, that is a decent solution to that problem. However, here's something I'm going to say. Pacing, right? Pacing. You know, if you're playing any video game, how you're actually interacting with your keybinds, with your controls, is really important. I mean, think about a console game and a gamepad, like a fighting game, you know? How you're actually mashing those buttons and stuff, that really does matter for how a game feels. And when we map this over to World of Warcraft, well, it's actually the pace of the spec, isn't it? Because let's just say you're doing, you know, GCD, cast time, GCD, instant cast time. Can you see how that's like a different pace throughout how a spec plays? Now, I thought there was a lot of cool times in the game where you could pop your offensive cooldown instantly without a GCD, and then maybe hit, you know, an instant cast button, and you're kind of doing this like double whammy, and you're sort of mashing your fingers together. It feels really good to do. I thought that was fun. I actually think that those things are really good for just providing different moments of pace, and especially some high points and points of a little bit higher skill in many of the different specs. And I think it's really sad that we've maybe thrown out some of the, I don't know, the baby's sort of been thrown out with the bathwater, I think. The GCD thing, Blizzard saw a problem on paper that did not really need fixed. I think they got a little bit salty that people were using macros sometimes, and just decided to do a really big fundamental change of how a whole bunch of their specs actually feel from a very fundamental, like, input perspective. I don't think it was worth it. I still don't think it's worth it, and it has got better in this expansion, but it certainly is noticeable to me whenever I play. It has been in BFA, and it still is on Alpha and Beta, so there you go, GCD, it continues. Of course, though, the GCD change actually looks like a good idea in comparison to the next one, and that is Master Loot. Blizzard, why are we talking about this? I always try to be respectful, but honestly, this is one of the most dumbass, pig-headed decisions you've ever made. There was never a problem. People are playing a MMORPG. If they get ninja looted because they did not really think about how to go in a pug, then you know what? Sucks for them. There we go. You don't need to protect people. You don't need to be mummy. You don't need to be daddy. Just activate Master Loot. The amount of, I mean, a small amount of bathwater was thrown out, and there's just 100 babies, just boom, gone. That's what happened here. This is one of the most boneheaded things Blizzard have, I think, ever done. And I really do say that because I think it is so stupid and so pointless. And I cannot wait for the BlizzCon where they announce that this is being reverted to loads of cheering and, you know, just, you know, the face palms will be happening then. I'm going to give you a really simple example here, right? I've mentioned Nyalotha. I got Echoing Void super early on. I got pretty good weapons super early on, right? And a weapon drop. There was a 5-item level upgrade for me. Cool. And I had a corruption on it. Also pretty cool. I didn't really need it, though. The other Demon Hunter in the group had like an eye level 410 or a 420. Basically, a heap of crap. Useless weapon. I couldn't help my teammate because Blizzard decided to remove Master Loot, seemingly because they were, what, stupid enough to think that item level is actually a relevant measure of player power or item power? I mean, come on, Blizzard, you're not silly. You know that's not the case. Yet, that is something that is a falsehood that you codified in your game system. Why did you do that? Why did you think it would work? Why have you thought that in, you know, in your game of D&D, when you get the loot at the end, that actually the party are not allowed to distribute that between themselves? Look, just put it in there. Put Master Loot back in, and Personal Loot will still exist. If someone does not want to enter a Master Looter group because of the type of person who complains in the official forums and the MMO Champion forums and just whines because they can't actually deal with social situations in their MMORPG, then they can only join Personal Loot groups. Fair enough. Maybe whenever Master Loot's turned on, maybe it's not even the default. Maybe Personal's the default. And when Master Loot is turned on, people have to confirm they're okay with it. Whatever. Just let guild groups use Master Loot, for God's sake. This is one of those things. Does it impact me a lot? No. Am I in some sort of cutting-edge progression situation? No. It's just that it fundamentally, as somebody who cares about things making sense, is one of the most stupid decisions that is completely misunderstanding and not caring about so much of the player base that it gets me. It gets me deep. Cheers, Blizz. You got me deep. And I'm still worried about this because it sucks. And next up, we've got a bit of a funny one. And this is actually something that I am worried that people think it's a problem, even though I actually don't think it's a problem. So it's a bit of a funny one. And that is, as I've so eloquently put it in my notes, that the expansion might not be mega dick hype. Now you might be thinking, what's mega dick hype? Well, you know when Warlords of Draenor came out and people were like, oh wow, cool cinematic, oh look at this, Garrison's player housing, wow, and they all got wowed by a sort of a feature that really emotionally resonated with them. Well man, if you look at the trailer and the cinematic for Shadowlands, it's a bit rough. Now, the cinematic I can understand because a lot of people had confusions over Sylvanas' motivations and where her power came from, even though she was a jailer and that was sort of established. But anyway, people had issues with that. But if you look at the trailer, so much of it's people just being like, oh, what? New zones? New dungeons? We get this every time. What is there to be excited about? And I'm a little worried that Blizzard won't be able to penetrate that perspective, that a lot of people will have just sort of assumed, oh, Shadowlands doesn't have that much after BFA was a bit of a dud and not really be that hyped about the game. Now, I understand not being hyped about the game for the reasons in this video as an example, but I actually do think that this expansion is shaping up to be great in many different ways. You might not feel that based on how animated I've been in one or 2 points of this video, but like seriously, you know, the character progression and the covenants, sweet. You know, getting all your stuff you can do with your alts, really cool. Changes they've made with even how the world quests are working, and honestly, like almost everything. Torghast is. Sometimes it really sucks you can't swear in YouTube videos without being demonetized. Torghast is so cool. I love it. All this stuff is so good. But a lot of it's unglamorously good because it's just like, hey, we made some new options. We made a cool new feature. We hope you enjoy them. Instead of something that just seems to have actually really penetrated the player's consciousness. So I don't know what you think about this, but there's been a lot of skepticism about this expansion that I think has been warranted, but there's been a lot that I also think is going to be a little bit less warranted. So I'm a little bit worried that this will hurt the success of the expansion, maybe in ways that it kind of doesn't deserve to. So a bit of a weird point I have in this video, and I'd love to know, is this something that has cropped up in your discussions with your friends and guildies about this expansion? If so, do let me know. I mean, look, assuming Covenant stuff doesn't take it out, if this is just a solid, respectable workhorse of an expansion that delivers us a lot of great content, I'm going to be pretty darn happy. Now, I do want to bring in one good thing here, and that is a little section on things I'm no longer worried about. And for me, that is Torghast Torments. You know, people said, no, we disagree with this in principle. Blizzard were like, okay, they do. We're not doing that anymore. Torghast entry cost. There was going to be an entry cost. People were like, we just want to play your game. Please let us. Blizzard were like, oh, okay. Huh. Maybe they actually do just want to play our game. Cool, we'll let you. So there's no entry cost. Conduits. We brought up a whole bunch of concerns. It seems like they're being taken seriously. Not only is this all stuff that I'm no longer worried about, in a way, it is something that I'm actually excited about. I know, it's not even the title of this video. Take that for clickbait. Being positive in a video about worries. Ha! Take that, commenters. But you get my point here, right? Blizzard are being a little bit more open about discussions. They did an hour-long discussion with Preach, knowing full well that he totally disagreed with him on a whole bunch of things and had made a lot of videos advocating for his viewpoints which are not convenient for Blizz. And they still went in and threw their game director into, I don't want to be like, into the den of wolves. It's Mike, he's a really decent guy. But, you know, they threw him into a situation that is not the most PR-friendly thing in the universe. I do respect that quite a bit. And when you actually look at the beta, man, you get max level templates, you can choose your covenant super quickly, there's keystone creation vendors, there's vendors for everything, Flaskator's there to help you out in testing your character. Just all that stuff is so much better than past tests, and that does make me actually a bit more excited, a little bit more heartened that Blizzard are actually, you know, going to maybe see a video like this and see some of Mike's videos and people's, you know, feedbacks and forum posts and stuff like that, and maybe have a thought about them instead of just the BFA situation where they kind of just plowed on regardless. I do think in some cases that was sheer arrogance and pig-headedness, as they have, I think, displayed in numerous public communications during the early period of BFA, but I also do think that in a way it was just them being a bit behind schedule and just being in a, you know, I guess if you're going to go Game of Thrones TV Stannis situation where it's like, yep, we're clearly screwed, all we can do is march forward, and then, you know, they get, you know what happens. So anyway, right, I think Blizzard are doing a bit better there. So there you go. this is my worries about this expansion. What are yours and what are you excited about? Do let me know down below. This has got to be a conversation and a dialogue, so that's why I was a bit more willing to let it run for 30 minutes instead of it being some sort of super slick thing. So let me know what you think. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
Do now. We brought the end of the world back here with us.
Everything in our new lives is connected to the plot to assassinate the president.
We have to make it right again before everyone we know is dead.
Oh my God, again?
Ah, time to buy a used car? Well, get the kids ready, or at least dress to head out to find... Oh, Hertz used cars? Searching online is way better than searching all over town. And all their vehicles are certified? Great choice. Well, vacation is a nice rest before you have to do all that financing paperwork. Wait, you can apply for credit online too? Well, how many different... Whoa, look at all those financing options. And there's no haggle prices? So when are you going to deal with the dealership? Probably have to take a whole day off and or figure out someone to watch the Whoa, you got it all done during lunch? And traded in your old one? Now that's buying a car made better. Learn more at hertzcarsales.com.
Right here. Quit WoW for Final Fantasy? Am I ready for this? I feel like I'm so like... Oh man. Alright, we're gonna watch it. Let's go.
Hey, also, today you might see that I'm wearing my Alliance shirt.
You traitor.
But I want to make clear that I do not support the Alliance in any way. I
What
bought
the
this t-shirt way before Goblins were available.
Are you
as a
kidding
race
me?
that I could play. I bought it at Hot Topic, and
oh my God!
Just saying that I'm wearing this shirt today to
Jesus, man.
It's a memento of a time long past. It's a memento of a time when I was still really invested in World of Warcraft, and when it was home to me still.
That's cute.
And I want to talk about where I've come from since then, and how I ended up where I am now as a full-time Final Fantasy XIV content creator. I feel like my
A full-time Final Fantasy content creator? Oh my God. Do those weird cats just appear in everybody's video as soon as they start playing Final Fantasy in the background? It's like as soon as you start playing the game, these cats start popping up everywhere. I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
my experience as like a WoW refugee might be enlightening for people, and it might be relatable to people that are considering coming to 14 now, that might also, like me, have this long history with World of Warcraft.
Man, should we even watch this? Like, she's gonna try to convert people away from the game? Like, is she gonna try and convert people away from our fucking game, dude?
Sentimental attachment.
See what she says.
I'll never forget in December of 2004 when my dad drove me to a Walmart that was an hour away, because it was the only one that we could find that had World of Warcraft in stock in my area. And I remember reading the like player handbook on the way home and thinking about what race I was gonna play. And I felt like I was gonna jump into this incredible adventure, and I was. World of Warcraft is an adventure that would consume my life for the next
Good,
over
that's
the
what it's
next
supposed to do.
decade and even longer.
That's what you want.
Raiding Nefarian with my guild was probably maybe my favorite ever memory from video games, like any
Nefarian's a
video
good fight.
game I ever
Yeah,
played.
I like Nefarian.
I was there with my
Sounds good
raid
to me.
guild. Everyone was dead. I was the last one standing. Nefarian was at like 1% health, and everyone was cheering me on in TeamSpeak.
We had this happen in
And
Gruul.
I was a rogue, and I popped evasion, and I managed to dodge every attack. Like,
I like how she's doing the dodge sounds, dude.
step
Okay.
very fast until
Alright,
he died.
dude.
And when he hit the floor,
Yeah.
TeamSpeak went.
Okay, dude.
Like, people were
Okay,
freaking out.
dude. Okay,
And I
dude. No,
felt
this shit
like
happened in
a
Classic all the time.
goddess, I guess. I felt amazing. And then my chess piece dropped. The Bloodfang chess piece dropped, and everyone gave it to me. And they were like, because I won the roll.
Yeah.
And they were like,
That's
"You
cool.
deserve this." And I was like, yeah, I deserve this. This is the best day ever. Like,
That's awesome.
that's, what can I say?
That's awesome.
I was in love with that game. I was
Hell
in
yeah.
love with the people I played with those
Yeah.
experiences of like, we worked
Yeah.
so hard to get to that point.
Fuck yeah, dude.
And we were rewarded for it. But imagine if that Bloodfang chess piece that dropped, like, if maybe that story happened today in the current state of WoW, and that chess piece maybe didn't Titan Forge or didn't get the socket or whatever, and then I would be like, oh well, okay, well I guess we'll just have to come back later and I'll try to get the Titan Forge.
Yeah. That actually works pretty fucking well. That's, yeah. I don't, okay, yeah. Why am I not surprised? She's right, yeah. It's like, and then she forgot the fact that it just personally gets looted to her or to somebody else. So like, she's the one that finishes off Nefarian, and then the rogue that dies first because he got tail swiped 5 times ends up getting the Titanforge Bloodfang chess piece personal looted to him instead. You know, that's how it works, man.
You know what I mean?
I'd be
There's
pissed.
been
Yeah,
a
exactly.
shift in design philosophy over the years, and it's one that has been, it's been painful to experience firsthand, and it's been heartbreaking to watch even from afar from my now new home of Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah.
As the years went
Okay.
on, I noticed that I was adding less and less people to my friends list. And I noticed that I was spending more time with people I had been randomly matched with that didn't say a word, and then we all go back to what we were doing before.
Yeah,
And
that's
we'll
about
never
right.
speak to each other again. By the time I got to Warlords
Seems
of
accurate.
Draenor, I was sitting in my garrison and I realized that that was the loneliest I ever felt. It was the loneliest I'd ever been. And
Jesus.
at the same time, I felt like trapped.
Yeah,
I
garrisons
felt like there
suck.
was nowhere to go. And there was no MMO besides this one that would ever
Yeah.
have so much meaning
That
for
makes
me, because it
sense.
was meaning that had been built up over so many years and through so many formative experiences. And I have friends, even today, there's friends in my Twitch chat who met.
I just want to pause for a second. I see there's a lot of like rude comments and like bad comments towards this person. I don't know why you guys think this is like socially acceptable to act this way, or like I've ever given you the implication that this is an okay way to act or to be towards somebody. I hope I never gave you that idea, because it's certainly not true. Don't act that way, or you're just gonna get timed out or banned.
Me during vanilla WoW or BC, and we have lifelong friendships from this game. We have bonds that will never be broken from this game. Of course, I'm connected to this game, and I always will be, no matter what. So I felt, well,
I need to get closer.
what's the point of even trying another MMO? It's WoW or nothing, you know?
Yeah, that's about right.
But my garrison was pretty much running itself, and a friend of mine begged me to try Final Fantasy XIV. It was during Heaven's Ward era.
Oh, wow.
And honestly, I was feeling pretty depressed. I felt like I had nothing to lose, and my life wasn't going really well at the time either. And so I figured, well, there's a free trial, so whatever.
You know, I think that's actually whenever I started playing BDO. It's kind of crazy that like she says this, because this is whenever I started playing BDO. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, it feels like that's kind of sad, honestly.
I'll just try it out. And
Yeah.
I had never played a Final Fantasy game before. I didn't understand like why there were cat girls to play. I didn't understand why there was like potatoes to play. I was kind of weirded out by the character creation, like full disclosure. Honestly, my first reaction was like, who is this game for?
That's good.
This is like
Weirded
a
out by
game.
cats.
That was my reaction. But I tried it.
It's for
And
weebs.
honestly, in spite of myself, in spite of all my reservations, and in spite of myself expecting it to be crap, I
Yes.
found myself after 3 days of playing the story and just feeling myself slowly, like, I guess, let my guard up and allow this new game to be enjoyable for me. Honestly, I was hooked after 3 days. The story pulled me in, and I started to feel connected again. Not just to the characters in the story, which I kind of think of like those first connections to the story characters as being almost like a rope that I grabbed onto after being in this pit of like, despair, like MMO despair.
Oh my god.
It was like I had this lifeline suddenly, and I started to feel like, oh my gosh, this is really fun, and I care about what's happening. I want to know what's going to happen next. And then the community.
I've never given a fuck about that. Like, it's like, I get mad whenever Bolvar gets bitch made by Sylvanas, but I don't really like. It's like, yeah, it's stupid. You know, I don't really like. I never like have cared about like a fantasy character. You know what I mean? I just don't give a fuck. I don't know. Like maybe this is like a weird thing for me, but it's got a good story. Yeah, it's just not a thing to me, man. Like it's just a fucking game. You know, like, I don't know. What about Garrosh? Garrosh is badass, but I don't really care whenever they kill them. It's just like,
Embrace me. And the community started pulling me up out of this hole that I was in.
Yeah,
and I started my YouTube channel, and I started making content.
How about that?
For the game. And before I knew it, I felt like I had a family around me, and I felt like I belonged for the first time since Wrath of the Lich King. In an MMO, I felt like I was at home, and I couldn't believe what was happening.
Dude, like, I've got fucking, I remember, I have such a fucking vivid memory of this. I remember it was like fucking Saturday morning, and I got up, and I had been in the vent channel all night long, and I woke up, and before I even put on my headphones, I could hear my guildies talking to each other and laughing and having fun. Before I even got on the computer, or because I had it on the headphones, man. Like I just, that made me feel so fucking good, dude. It really did, and I'll never forget that.
I mean, I got caught up in 14 so fast. Everything moved so quickly. I got my character to level 60. I started doing Alexander raids, and I started raiding again. I had that incredible thrill of killing the savage bosses with my new static, my new friends from my static, and it was that same old thrill that I felt back in the day with
yeah, I don't know if that's hard or not.
You know, I was having so much fun. My heart found a new place to be, a new place to stay, and I watched from afar, from this position of safety, from which I still watched, as World of Warcraft took its path and continues to take this path down a road that I can't follow. It's like that thing that Jaina said to Arthas, like, you're going down a path I can't follow.
But to be fair, Jaina was wrong, and she messed everything up whenever she said that, though. Like, I want to just keep that in mind, like, for some context. Like, Jaina was wrong for saying that. She caused another fucking expansion because of that. Fucking Arthas would have never had to be the Lich King if she had helped him and Uther had helped him. But no.
Oh, I don't want to do this. Oh no, I can't be with you, Arthas.
It's like, yeah, no, Arthas was right. Arthas was the only one that had the strength to make a decision, and only a king could make, and the other people couldn't even see it. They demonized him.
Meanwhile, you have Ian saying stuff like, this was from a Q&A. Ian said, if people are engaging in activity beyond the level that's required to earn some baseline reward, that's an indication they're doing it because it is fun. We can infer that from this data that they are having fun. We can infer the fun if they repeat activity beyond baseline reward acquisition. It is fun. Like, what?
Yeah.
He was talking about how they decide if something's fun or not, like how a robot would if they were studying humans and trying to understand what is fun. Like, what is this thing? Like,
Ian doesn't know what fun is.
It was so weird. And then
I've said this before, right? It's like Ian's a lot of his like concerns and like, you know, things like that in the game. They're like robotic and they're not. I feel like they're always like very disconnected from what the player base wants. It's like they limit things to what should be fun rather than what is fun. It's always been like really weird. I think this is a pretty good analogy, and I think a lot of people feel the same as she does. They see kind of the way that Blizzard is designing the game and like building the systems in the game around analytics rather than player enjoyment. And I think that's why you see systems like the Garrison just, you know, happen throughout the entire expansion. Because like people said, like, okay, well, a lot of people are doing the Garrison, a lot of people are doing it, plus, so it must be fun, without actually looking at what like the actual reason for it happening is. So yeah, I'm really glad that this is another person thinking the same thing.
Laura's sitting next to him. Laura's the community manager who famously on Twitter called the community dickbags. There's a tweet for that. He's a community manager. His job is to interact with the community. And he was like, look, I'm quick to mute or block people. I don't want to slog through garbage on Twitter. Okay, from anonymous dickbags. What are you doing?
Like, here's the thing with Laura saying this. Is that like he's right. Like, obviously, like, you're not supposed to, like, he's obviously not, there's a certain amount of disingenuousness that goes into this. Like, obviously he shouldn't have said it publicly, probably shouldn't have said it, yeah. But let's just be honest for a second here, okay? Like, this guy gets dipshits coming at him all the time. Like, people making threats at him all the time and dealing with that shit all the time. And if this guy doesn't get to make like a tweet about it every once in a while and get pissed off, you don't want people to be people, you just want them to be robots.
Your job is to go through Twitter messages. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? These are the people that are leading the Q&As, that are leading the official discussion about the state and path of the game. And not only are they out of touch with like a very basic idea of what is fun, how do we decide if this is fun, but also out of touch with the community, and even like from this tweet, you can see that there's a level of like aggression, and almost like seeing the community as an enemy, not as an ally that's there to give you, you know, a very important, you know, God, I'm so tired of this word.
And that's actually something that I've tried to work on myself personally, is that I felt like I've kind of put myself in a position where I was like, I was like adversarial towards Blizzard in a way. And in the past, like, I don't know, like year or so, I've tried to be much more accommodating and much more polite. And I've tried to actually like make connections with people and work towards being more positive. And I think that like by making that, like there are people that kind of like follow that example. Obviously a lot of people don't, right? I mean, like how many people are going to watch what I do and do what I do? Maybe a few people, but you know, I think that it's important to lead by example. And so I try not to be as angry and vitriolic about things that they're doing in the game as I used to be, right? And if I am, I never really direct the hate towards like one person, right? I say like Ian doesn't really talk about this or that, right? But it's like very different than like somebody on Twitter. Now, I've tried to be more constructive. I've definitely tried to work towards being more constructive in the past like year or so.
Feedback. We value your feedback. It's like the.
Is that a cat?
Like it's the retail lie that everyone's sick of hearing. I don't even want to call it feedback. You're supposed to have normal conversations. You're supposed to play the game yourself, and as a human, using your human emotions, decide: did I have fun? It also echoes this thing that J. Allen Brack said.
Yeah.
President of Blizzard said, you know, you think you want it, but you don't. Again, it's like this sense of condescension and how
it is a sense of condescension, but J. Allen Brack was right with a lot of people. I mean, I don't think that it's completely, like, he was completely wrong. It's just that it was condescending, and there were people that didn't like it. There's enough people that didn't like it. Yeah, he was right with a lot of people. And it's like there's never like there's never a conversation about them. Obviously, like there are many people who played Classic. There's a lot of people who messaged me and they told me I played Classic. It made me appreciate retail way fucking more. So I think that look at the amount of Classic Andes in chat. What is like 50 of them? Like that's not really a very good indicator. But there are people that told me like, oh, playing Classic made me appreciate retail that much. And I think there's a lot of guys, like a lot of people in my guild like this. Like we play Classic and we play retail. Like we raid on Classic, maybe do a few BGs on Classic or something like that, farm a little bit of gold or just fuck around or whatever. And then we also play retail too. Raid on retail, do Mythic Plus, do like the keys or whatever. Like it's you just play the game, right? It doesn't have to be like a whole statement about it. But I do think that Blizzard does design things that are too analytical and they don't actually look at like the emotional effect that things have on players. And that's their biggest mistake, I think, with design nowadays.
How long has the community proven him to be with the massive hype over WoW Classic?
Yeah.
People aren't excited about WoW Classics that can log in and play a polygon dwarf who like has like 4 polygons on his nose. They're logging in
like that.
because of the design philosophy. This again, like with BlizzCon, we have all these quotes from these people.
Yeah.
Don't you guys have phones? They're on this ivory tower.
I'm gonna fucking like the guy that don't you guys have phones. It was just a dumb thing to say, and like I'm gonna be honest, like the guy probably didn't even make the decision to even do Diablo Immortal. He just like because like that's why they never go off script. By the way, like you see them, they have teleprompters for what they're saying. Like I don't know if you guys knew this. But like, whenever you see them looking at the camera, or looking like here's the camera, and they're looking like right here, they're reading a teleprompter, okay? Like they're reading the words off of the script. And so the moment you take these fuckers off the script, you're gonna have some stupid fucking comments. You're 100% gonna have stupid fucking comments scripted, yeah. It's like, the don't you guys have phones thing, it's a meme, right? It's funny, but it's also I don't think it really necessarily means you're out of touch. It just means you're not like, there's this stupid comment. Because he was like, I don't think they expected that to happen. Like imagine like having to announce a product in front of a bunch of people, like thousands of people, and then having them be like really skeptical about it and negative. And like you're up on stage. Yeah, you're gonna you might make an ass out of yourself. That could happen. That could completely happen.
And looking down at the players like they just have no idea what they want, and we know what fun is because we have the numbers.
Exactly.
It was the first fan fest 4 months ago in Paris.
Oh my
It was
God.
like night and day. BlizzCon 2018 versus FanFest 2019, because like there was a rock show at the end where Yoshida came out in this like freaking amazing tiger kimono, and he's like singing this badass song from the game, and you've got like Koji Fox from the English localization team.
What the fuck?
So fair. And they're like rocking
they have the
out.
same
They're
thing at
having so
BlizzCon.
much fun. Like
Not like
we are
this, but
part
kind
of this big thing together, and you feel like they really are invested in this game too. They care about this game too. They're there to listen to us. I posted today on Twitter at FanFest, a fan went up during the Q&A and requested a quality of life change. And Yoshida was like, yeah, we can do that. 4 months later, like today, I posted, that they have announced that they will be adding that feature that was requested by a fan into the game.
How about that?
I posted that to just kind of demonstrate.
That's awesome.
How very different
That is good.
the devs are.
There it is.
If there's a controversy, which there have been, they address it and they say, well, here's the reasons for why we can't give you what you want right now. But
this is actually like such a good criticism of Blizzard. Like I like all the other ones, I'm like, you know, like whatever, right? But this is such a good criticism of Blizzard, is because Blizzard is mired in bureaucracy. They have fucking 8 lines of red tape before they let somebody talk to the public. And the problem is that it's like, for example, if they were talking to players a lot more, I think that the don't you guys have phones thing would have faded away more. But I think what ends up happening is that they have like one of these statements that gets interpreted in a bad way, and because Blizzard is not always communicating with the players, that one statement stands out more because there's less communication in general. So what happens is that Blizzard doesn't talk to the players in an honest, direct sense. And instead of that, what they do is they just kind of make these political statements. Blizzard basically acts like the government. Like, it's really, they function like the government, and we are like the people, okay? And like, you're always pissed off, fucking taxes are messed up, holes in the road, the Burger King that you guys said you're gonna fix, it's not fixed. There's the bridge that you said you're gonna fix that for some reason went to your brother's company for, you know, their highest bid. And, you know, it's been broken for 40 years because your brother's in jail. It's like, you know, and so nothing ever fucking happens, and people are pissed off constantly. And so Blizzard's the same thing. And Blizzard, you have these people, and they don't communicate honestly. And I like Ian. So, for example, Sloopbag came out, and he criticized the variance change. And Ian was like, well, what the fuck are you talking about? This is in the game. And he basically said, calm the fuck down. Like, I felt so much better about that. I felt so much better. Like, regardless if I disagree with what he's saying or not, it doesn't really matter. I want the honest communication. Like, if a dev said, like if a dev just called out, like, even me, right? Like, what the fuck do you keep saying this stupid ass shit for? That's never gonna happen. Why do you keep talking about it? And like, please, like, just be honest with us.
I'm out of
Just
range.
treat us like normal people. I think that Blizzard just assumes that like all of their players are like these like weird, crazy nerds that just, if they hear something, they're just gonna latch onto it and freak out or something like that. And it's like, yeah, that's partially true, but it doesn't mean, yeah, I know it's partially true, but it doesn't mean you don't talk to them. More talking to them is good. I mean, it's completely fine. And yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see more of that. But yeah, I don't know, like Blizzard's communication has, and I also want to say they have massively turned this around. Like, they have massively turned this around. Like, in Shadowlands, everything that they've done has been good. Like, they have not made every good decision. I hate Covenants. I think the Conduit, like, having to do with I don't know how I feel about that. Not being spec specific, that's stupid too. But like, for the most part, they have been. No, wait, what are the caps for? Really? What are the caps for? Has Blizzard not been doing like fucking literally dozens of interviews, asking and answering questions from the community, or answering questions from the community? Have they not been responding to feedback that players have given over the cycle of the beta? Has this not happened? It has. And because it's happened, I consider it a massive improvement over what happened in BFA Legion and Warlords of Draenor. It's great.
Try. They're very transparent. They know they're in touch with what is going on, with what players want. But it's design philosophy problems that are the reason why I felt so alone in comparison in Warlords of Draenor. They're the reason why I left that game behind, and it opened that window of opportunity for me to finally try another game. So why are players quitting WoW for 14? It's because that the tie has been severed. What are those ties made of? They're made of
like
meaning.
Friendships, yeah.
What is meaning? It is human connections.
Yeah, yeah.
It is feeling pride in your character and pride in what you've accomplished.
That's pretty true.
Whatever that chord of meaning is, I know that
that's pretty
it's
true.
made up of something more than the sum of its parts, and that's what Ian doesn't get. That's what they don't seem to get.
That is true.
Something that makes you feel like you're part of something bigger. And that's what WoW has lost. That's what Final Fantasy XIV can offer. You might not like it. You know, you might try it and it might not be for you. That's okay. But I will make a separate video talking about some misconceptions you might have, especially early on in the early parts of gameplay. I'll talk more about how the game does change as you level, and more of like what to expect if you decide to play 14 coming from World of Warcraft. What do you think? What do you think about this thing that I've called the chord of meaning? What is
Great to meet you. Off with you.
Interesting. All right then.
Hello. Safe travels.